First contact gone wrong. The deep space patrol captain Elena Vasquez adjusted her flight helmet as her interceptor cruised through the void between Mars and Jupiter. The sleek fighter responded to her touch like an extension of her own body. After 15 years in the Earth Defense Corps, she knew every vibration of her ship's engine, every flicker of the instrument panel. Today's patrol seemed routine, just another sweep of the outer system looking for asteroid threats or debris from old mining operations. The silence of space stretched endlessly around her. Earth hung like a blue jewel in the distance, peaceful and unaware. Elena had been born on Luna Base, but Earth was still home. She had spent her career protecting that small blue world, and she took the responsibility seriously. Her communications array crackled to life. Falcon 7, this is Control. We're picking up some unusual readings in your sector. Can you investigate grid-referenced Tango 47? Elena checked her navigation display. Control, that's pretty far out toward the edge of the system. What kind of readings? Unknown energy signatures. Probably just solar interference, but we need visual confirmation. Roger, Control. Adjusting course now. She pushed the throttle forward, feeling the familiar pressure as her ship accelerated. The stars shifted around her as she changed direction, heading toward the outer reaches of the solar system. As she flew, Elena thought about her daughter back on Earth. Sarah was only 8 years old, probably in school right now, learning about the planets her mother flew between every day. The discovery. 2 hours later, Elena's blood ran cold. Her long-range sensors had detected something impossible. She blinked hard, checked her instruments twice, then activated her emergency beacon. Control, this is Falcon 7. I need priority communication with Earth Defense Command immediately. Falcon 7, what's your status? Elena stared at her display in disbelief. Control, I'm looking at 17 massive objects approaching from deep space. They're huge. Each one is at least 5 kilometers long. And they're definitely not natural. The silence that followed lasted 10 seconds too long. Falcon 7, please repeat your last transmission. 17 alien ships. Control. They're in formation and heading directly for Earth. Estimated time of arrival. 72 hours. Her hands trembled as she activated her ship's most powerful cameras and sensors. The images that came back made her stomach drop. The ships were sleek and predatory, covered in strange geometric patterns that seemed to pulse with energy. They moved with purpose, decelerating in perfect coordination as they entered the solar system. Control, I'm transmitting all sensor data now. These ships are beyond anything we've ever seen. Their energy output is off the charts. Earth's emergency. Within an hour, every major government on Earth had received the sensor data. In the Pentagon, General Sarah Brooks stood before a room full of military leaders, scientists, and government officials. The massive display screen showed Elena's footage of the approaching fleet. Ladies and gentlemen, General Brooks said, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the situation, we are facing an unprecedented threat. These ships demonstrate technology centuries beyond our current capabilities. We have just over 70 hours to prepare for what we must assume is an invasion. President Maria Santos leaned forward in her chair. General, what are our options? Limited, Madam President. Our most powerful weapons are nuclear missiles, and we have no idea if they would even scratch these ships. We need to assume they have shields or armor that make our conventional weapons useless. Dr. Marcus Chen, a quantum physicist from MIT, raised his hand. General, I've been analyzing the energy readings from Captain Vasquez's sensors. There's something unusual about their propulsion system. It uses a form of quantum field manipulation that I've only seen in theoretical papers. Can you explain that in terms we can all understand, Doctor? President Santos asked. Dr. Chen stood and walked to the display. Imagine trying to push a boulder up a hill. That's how our rockets work. Brute force against gravity and physics. These ships are doing something different. They're changing the physics around them. Making space itself help them move. It's incredibly advanced. But what? General Brooks prompted. Every advanced system has vulnerabilities. The more complex the technology, the more things can go wrong. If we can understand how their system works, we might find a way to disrupt it. The ultimatum. Before anyone could respond, every screen in the room flickered. The image that appeared made everyone freeze. It was clearly alien, tall with elongated limbs and skin that seemed to shimmer between silver and blue. 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on its face studied them with cold intelligence. People of Earth, the being spoke, its voice translated into perfect English by some unknown technology. I am Admiral Zeftar of the Nexari Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our civilization. You have primitive technology but show potential for useful labor. The room remained deadly silent as the alien continued. You have 72 hours to surrender your planetary governments and submit to Nexari authority. Resistance will result in the sterilization of your world and the elimination of your species. This is not a negotiation. This is notification of your fate. The transmission ended, leaving the room in stunned silence. President Santos was the first to speak. General Brooks, mobilize everything we have. Contact our allies, all of them. If we're going to face extinction, we'll face it together. Already on it, Madam President, General Brooks replied, her fingers flying over her communication device. The race against time. Over the next 24 hours, Earth transformed. Military bases around the world went to maximum alert. Nuclear submarines surfaced and prepared their missiles. Every fighter jet was fueled and armed. Space stations and orbital platforms powered up their defensive systems. But most importantly, Dr. Chen worked frantically in a laboratory deep beneath NORAD. He had gathered the world's top physicists, and they were racing to understand the alien technology before it was too late. The quantum field they use creates a bubble around their ships, Dr. Chen explained to his international team of scientists. Inside that bubble, they can manipulate space-time itself, but the field has to interact with normal space at the boundary. Dr. Yuki Tanaka from Japan leaned over the calculations. If we could destabilize that boundary. Exactly, Dr. Chen said excitedly. We don't need to destroy their ships. We just need to disrupt their quantum fields. Without those fields, their ships become as vulnerable as ours. Meanwhile, Captain Elena Vasquez had been recalled to Earth and promoted to squadron leader. She now commanded a group of the Earth's best pilots, all volunteers who knew they were likely flying to their deaths. Listen up, she told her pilots in the briefing room. We're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every human who will ever be born. We're fighting for the right to exist as a free species. The odds are against us, but humans have always been at their best when the odds are impossible. Pilot Jackson Reed, barely 22 years old, raised his hand. Ma'am, what if our weapons can't penetrate their defenses? Elena looked at each of her pilots in turn. Then we ram them. We show these aliens that humans would rather die fighting than live as slaves. The room erupted in determined shouts of agreement. The final preparations, with 48 hours remaining, Dr. Chen made a breakthrough. Working with quantum computers and technology borrowed from every advanced laboratory on Earth, he had designed a device that could theoretically disrupt the alien quantum fields. It's essentially a quantum noise generator, he explained to General Brooks and President Santos via secure video link. If we can get close enough to their ships and activate these devices, their quantum bubbles should collapse. How close is close enough? General Brooks asked. Dr. Chen hesitated. Within about 100 meters, and the device needs 30 seconds to build up enough quantum interference to be effective. The implications were clear. Any ship carrying the device would have to survive 30 seconds of concentrated alien fire at point-blank range. It was a suicide mission. How many devices can you build in the next 2 days? President Santos asked. Maybe 50, if every laboratory on Earth works around the clock. Then that's what we'll do. General Brooks, I want those devices distributed among our fastest, most maneuverable ships, and I want volunteers only. Within hours, pilots from every nation were volunteering for the mission. The devices, nicknamed quantum busters by the pilots, were hastily installed on the fastest fighters Earth could provide. As the alien fleet drew closer, something unexpected happened. Instead of panic, humanity began to show its true character. Around the world, people came together. Ancient enemies put aside their differences. Resources were shared freely. Every person on Earth seemed to understand that this was the moment that would define their species forever. The final hours. With 12 hours remaining before the alien fleet reached Earth, Admiral Zeftar sent another transmission. This time, he appeared on every screen, every device, every communication system on the planet. Humans of Earth, your time is nearly expired. We have observed your military preparations. Your primitive weapons cannot harm our vessels. Surrender now, and some of your population will be allowed to survive as workers in our empire. Continue to resist, and we will demonstrate the futility of opposing the Nexari. This time, President Santos was ready with a response. She had prepared her words carefully, knowing they might be humanity's last official statement as a free species. Admiral Zeftar, you have made a critical error in your assessment of humanity. You see our technology and assume we are weak. You see our differences and assume we are divided. But you have awakened something in humanity that has carried us from caves to stars. You have given us a reason to stand united. The president paused, looking directly into the camera with unwavering determination. We reject your ultimatum. We will not surrender. We will not submit. You have one chance to leave our system peacefully. This is humanity's final warning. As the transmission ended, Admiral Zeftar's 4 eyes narrowed with something resembling amusement. The humans still did not understand. In a few hours, they would learn the price of defying the Nexari Empire. But as his fleet approached Earth, something nagged at the Admiral's consciousness. In all his conquests across the galaxy, no species had ever responded with such unified defiance. Most civilizations begged for mercy or tried to negotiate. These humans were preparing to fight a battle they could not possibly win. It was either the bravest thing he had ever witnessed or the most foolish. Soon, he would discover which. Humanity's final gambit. The final dawn. The last sunrise over Earth came with a beauty that seemed almost cruel. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the launch deck of the orbital defense platform, watching the sun paint the planet below in shades of gold and amber. In just 6 hours, the Nexari fleet would arrive. She thought of her daughter Sarah, safely evacuated to the underground shelters in Colorado. Whatever happened today, at least the children would have a chance. Squadron leaders, report to the briefing room. General Brooks announced over the intercom. Elena took one last look at Earth, then headed inside. The briefing room was packed with pilots from every nation. American, Chinese, Russian, Indian, Brazilian, Nigerian. Humanity had never been more united than in these final hours. Dr. Chen stood at the front of the room, his face showing the exhaustion of 72 hours without sleep. Behind him, a holographic display showed the approaching Nexari fleet in terrifying detail. The quantum disruptors are ready, Dr. Chen announced. 50 devices, installed on our fastest ships. Each device needs 30 seconds of proximity to an enemy vessel to collapse their quantum field. Once that field collapses, their ships become vulnerable to conventional weapons. Elena studied the tactical display. Doctor, these ships are massive. Even without their shields, it would take multiple hits to destroy them. Dr. Chen nodded grimly. That's why we've modified our nuclear missiles. Each one now carries a quantum resonance warhead. If we can collapse their fields and hit them with these enhanced weapons, we should be able to cause significant damage. General Brooks stepped forward. Let me be clear about what we're asking. The quantum disruptor ships need to get within 100 meters of enemy vessels and survive 30 seconds under direct fire. The odds of survival are essentially zero. The room fell silent. Alina looked around at the faces of her fellow pilots, young and old, men and women, from every corner of Earth, all volunteers, all ready to die for humanity's freedom. "General," said Commander Lu Wei from the Chinese Space Force, "has any species ever successfully resisted the Nexari? According to our analysis of their transmission protocols, they've conquered 43 civilizations across the galaxy. We would be the first to resist." Elena stood up. "Then let's make history." The fleet arrives. The Nexari fleet dropped out of hyperspace with a display of power that shook the solar system. 17 massive ships arranged themselves in a perfect formation, their hulls pulsing with energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. Each ship was a work of art and terror, sleek and predatory, designed to inspire fear in any species that saw them. On the flagship, Admiral Zeftar stood on the command bridge, his 4 eyes studying the tactical displays. The humans had assembled their entire space fleet, a pathetic collection of primitive ships that wouldn't have been impressive 1,000 years ago by Nexari standards. "Admiral," reported his tactical officer, a younger Nexari named Sub-Commander Kethful, "the humans have approximately 200 ships in defensive positions around their planet. Energy signatures suggest nuclear weapons and kinetic projectiles." Zeftar made a dismissive gesture with one of his elongated arms, "Stone knives and bare claws. Signal the fleet. We will demonstrate our power. Destroy their largest military installation first. Perhaps watching their defenses crumble will convince them to surrender the remaining population." "Which installation, Admiral?" "The one they call the Pentagon. It appears to be their primary military command center. Operation Last Stand begins." On Earth, President Santos sat in the emergency command bunker, watching the display screens that showed the approaching alien fleet. General Brooks stood beside her, coordinating with military commanders around the world. "Madam President," General Brooks said quietly, "the Nexari flagship is powering up its main weapon. Targeting appears to be Washington, D.C." Santos closed her eyes for a moment, thinking of the millions of people who had lived and worked in the capital. The evacuation had been successful, but seeing her nation's center of power about to be destroyed still felt like a dagger to the heart. "General, begin Operation Last Stand. All units, this is command," General Brooks broadcast to the fleet. "Operation Last Stand is now active. Godspeed to you all." In space, Alina's fighter was among the 50 ships equipped with quantum disruptors. Around her, the rest of Earth's fleet began moving into attack formation. It looked hopelessly small compared to the alien armada, but Alina had never been more proud to be human. "Quantum teams, remember your training," she broadcast to the other disruptor ships. "We need to survive 30 seconds within 100 meters. Use the debris field around the orbital stations for cover. Once those quantum fields collapse, the conventional forces can finish the job." The response came from pilots speaking dozens of languages, but the determination was universal. "Understood, Squadron Leader. We're ready." The battle begins. The Nexari opened fire first. A beam of pure energy lanced out from their flagship, striking the abandoned Pentagon with devastating force. The entire building vaporized in seconds, leaving only a crater of molten glass where America's military nerve center had stood for decades. "Impressive," Admiral Zeftar commented. "Signal all ships, target their orbital platforms next. Once their space-based infrastructure is destroyed, they will have no choice but to surrender." But as the Nexari fleet moved into firing position, something unexpected happened. The human ships didn't retreat. Instead, they accelerated directly toward the alien fleet, their primitive engines screaming at maximum power. "Admiral," Sub-Commander Kethful reported with confusion, "the human ships are attacking. They're heading straight for our formation." Zeftar's 4 eyes widened in surprise. "Impossible. They must know their weapons cannot penetrate our quantum barriers." Alina's fighter screamed through space, dodging energy blasts that lit up the void like deadly fireworks. Around her, Human ships exploded under the alien bombardment, their crews dying in flashes of nuclear fire. But for every ship destroyed, 2 more pressed the attack. "Quantum Team 7, I'm making my run," Elena announced, diving toward the nearest Nexeri cruiser. The ship was beautiful and terrible, its hull covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift and writhe. Energy weapons swiveled to track her approach. She dove under the ship's main weapon array, flying through a storm of smaller defensive weapons. Her fighter's armor ablated under the intense fire, warning alarms screaming in her cockpit. But she held course, watching her range counter tick down. 150 meters, 120, 110. "Quantum disruptor activated," she announced. Beginning 30-second countdown. The device in her fighter's cargo bay hummed to life, generating a field of quantum noise designed to interfere with the alien ship's propulsion system. Elena threw her fighter into a series of evasive maneuvers, trying to stay within range while avoiding the increasingly desperate alien fire. Around the Nexeri fleet, other quantum teams were making their runs. Some ships were destroyed before they could activate their devices. Others managed to begin the countdown only to be obliterated seconds later. But a few, piloted by the most skilled and determined humans, managed to complete their missions. The tide turns. On the Nexeri flagship, Admiral Zeftar watched his tactical display with growing alarm. 3 of his ships had suddenly lost their quantum fields, their protective barriers collapsing in cascades of energy. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "These primitives shouldn't understand quantum field theory." "Admiral," Kethvol reported urgently, "the affected ships are reporting massive system failures. Their quantum drives are offline, and their defensive barriers are gone." "Impossible. No species has ever developed technology to counter our quantum fields." But even as he spoke, more ships reported field collapses. The humans had somehow discovered the one weakness in Nexeri technology that even their own scientists considered theoretical. Elena completed her 30-second run and peeled away from the Nexeri cruiser just as its quantum field collapsed in a spectacular display of energy. The massive ship, no longer protected by its barrier, suddenly found itself vulnerable to human weapons for the first time in the battle. "All conventional forces," Elena broadcast. "The cruiser's shields are down. Concentrate fire." Nuclear missiles, launched from hidden positions throughout the solar system, converged on the defenseless Nexeri ship. The vessel's hull, designed to deflect energy weapons while protected by quantum fields, couldn't withstand the primitive but effective nuclear warheads. The cruiser exploded in a ball of fire that could be seen from Earth's surface. Admiral Zeftar stared in shock as one of his mighty warships died. In 43 conquests, the Nexeri had never lost a single vessel. These humans had just accomplished the impossible. "Admiral," Kethvol said quietly, "we're receiving reports of quantum field failures across the fleet. 7 ships have lost their barriers completely. The humans appear to have some kind of disruption technology." Zeftar's mind raced. How had these primitives developed counter-technology in just 72 hours? The quantum field principles involved were beyond most civilizations' understanding even after centuries of study. "Signal retreat," he ordered. "Take us to safe distance while we analyze this situation." But it was too late. Earth's fleet, smelling victory for the first time, pressed their attack with desperate courage. More quantum disruptor teams completed their missions, and more Nexeri ships found themselves defenseless against human nuclear weapons. The impossible victory. Dr. Chen watched the battle from the command bunker, his hands trembling with exhaustion and adrenaline. The quantum disruptors were working better than his most optimistic projections. The Nexeri quantum fields, so elegant and advanced, had a critical flaw. They required perfect harmonic resonance to maintain stability. His devices generated enough quantum noise to shatter that resonance like a glass breaking under a soprano's high note. "General Brooks," he reported, 12 Nexeri ships have lost their quantum fields. The remaining 5 are attempting to retreat. General Brooks studied the tactical display with amazement. They had done it. Humanity had actually defeated a technologically superior alien invasion force. All ships, pursue and engage. Don't let them regroup. Alina led the pursuit, her damaged fighter somehow still flying despite the punishment it had taken. The Nexari ships, their formations broken and their confidence shattered, found themselves being hunted by the very species they had come to enslave. Nexari flagship, this is Captain Alina Vasquez of the Earth Defense Corps. She broadcast on all frequencies. You came here expecting to find primitives. Instead, you found humans. Surrender now, or we will destroy every one of your ships. The unexpected proposal. On the Nexari flagship, Admiral Zeftar faced a decision no Nexari commander had ever confronted. His fleet was beaten, his ships were vulnerable, and these humans showed no intention of accepting surrender. Admiral, Kethval said urgently, we could jump to hyperspace and retreat. The humans lack faster-than-light capability. They couldn't pursue us. Zeftar considered this. He could retreat, report to the Empire, and return with a larger fleet equipped to counter the human quantum disruptors. But as he watched the tactical display, something stopped him. These humans had accomplished something no species in galactic history had managed. They had analyzed Nexari technology and developed an effective counter-weapon in just 3 days. Their tactical coordination was flawless despite using primitive communication systems. Most importantly, they had shown courage that bordered on insanity, willingly flying suicide missions to protect their world. Open a channel to the human fleet, Zeftar ordered. Admiral Zeftar to human forces. He broadcast, his image appearing on screens throughout the human fleet. I request a cessation of hostilities for the purpose of negotiation. Alina, now leading what remained of Earth's fleet, responded immediately. We're listening, but you have 30 seconds before we resume our attack. Zeftar had never been in this position before. Humans of Earth, you have achieved something unprecedented. You have defeated a Nexari invasion fleet through ingenuity, courage, and unity. The Empire came here expecting to find another primitive world to conquer. Instead, we found something else. He paused, choosing his words carefully. I formally withdraw the Nexari claim on your world. More than that, I propose an alliance. The galaxy is vast, and there are threats far worse than the Nexari Empire. A species capable of what you achieved today could be valuable allies rather than enslaved subjects. A new dawn. 6 months later, Captain Alina Vasquez stood on the bridge of humanity's first interstellar ship, a hybrid of human and Nexari technology. The vessel represented something new in the galaxy, a partnership between species rather than conquest and subjugation. Admiral Zeftar, now serving as Earth's first alien ambassador, had proven invaluable in introducing humanity to the galactic community. The story of Earth's resistance had spread throughout the galaxy, and dozens of species had requested meetings with these remarkable humans. Dr. Chen had been awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics for his quantum disruption technology, which was already revolutionizing both human and alien science. His work had implications far beyond weapons. It promised to unlock new forms of faster-than-light travel and communication. General Brooks now commanded Earth's new stellar defense force, training with alien advisors to prepare for the greater challenges that awaited humanity among the stars. The unity forged during the invasion had held, creating a truly global government for the first time in human history. President Santos addressed the United Nations, now representing Earth in galactic affairs. 6 months ago, we faced extinction. Today, we stand as equals among the stars. We learned that humanity's greatest strength is not our technology or our weapons. It's our refusal to surrender when we're fighting for something we believe in. As Alina's ship prepared for humanity's first diplomatic mission to the Galactic Core, she thought about her daughter Sarah, now 9 years old and dreaming of becoming Earth's first alien anthropologist. The universe had become a much larger and more wonderful place. The humans had been given one warning by the Nexari Empire. In response, they had given the galaxy something it had never seen before: proof that any species, no matter how small or primitive, could achieve greatness through courage, ingenuity, and the determination never to surrender. Humanity had not just survived first contact. They had transformed it into first friendship, and in doing so, they had begun to transform the galaxy itself.